The sky burned in colors no human eye was meant to see. Violet fire licked across the upper atmosphere, the fading echoes of the storm that had dragged two ships down like toys. Shattered hulls smoldered in the wasteland, one human, one alien. Both lay broken, bleeding smoke into the air. Dr. Elara Vaz stumbled out of the wreckage, her chest rattling with every breath. The planet's atmosphere was thin, sharp as metal on her tongue, but it kept her alive. That was enough. She pressed a hand against her ribs, grimaced at the bruises spreading under her skin, and forced herself forward. Behind her, the stellar ark's remains flickered in dying sparks. Dozens of lives lost in seconds. Her crew, gone. She had no time to mourn. Survival demanded her attention. Across the barren plain, the other wreckage shifted. Alien. Black metal, serrated edges, the kind of craft the Dominion used to stalk convoys. A shiver ran down her spine. They hadn't just collided. That ship had been hunting hers. A figure moved. Tall, armored, staggering but upright. It stepped free of the ruins, smoke curling around its frame. His skin, or was it armor, gleamed obsidian under the fading fires. 4 eyes burned faintly in the shadows of his helm. He was no ghost. Elara froze. If he saw her as prey, she was finished. The plasma cutter in her pack was little more than a torch against a creature built for war. The alien's head tilted, locking onto her movement. He bared teeth like glass shards, and a low growl rolled across the wasteland. Elara's fingers tightened on the cutter's grip. "Stay back." The creature spoke, words distorted but intelligible, voice like stone grinding against stone. "Human." The syllables dripped with disdain. "Fragile, alone." Her breath caught. He was injured, his movements uneven, one arm clutching his side. He was no less dangerous, but not invincible either. "Don't come closer," she warned, lifting the cutter. "I'll use this." A rasping laugh echoed from his chest. "Fire stick? You cannot harm Kaeldar." He tapped his armor with a clawed finger. "Weak tool. Weak species." Elara swallowed the urge to retort. Mockery meant he wasn't charging her. Not yet. Survival dictated patience. Then the heavens opened. Rain hissed down, smoking as it struck the ground. The first drops burned where they touched her skin. Acid. She cursed under her breath and scanned for shelter. Rock formations jutted half a click away, a cave mouth yawning black against the storm. The alien had already seen it. He started forward with painful determination, favoring one leg but relentless. Elara hesitated only a second before following. Acid ate through fabric fast. They reached the cave together, dripping, steam rising from scorched cloth and armor. The alien leaned against the wall, chest heaving. His breathing carried a guttural rattle. He wasn't as invulnerable as he pretended. Elara slid down opposite him, pulling out her medkit. Silence pressed heavy between them, punctuated by the hiss of acid rain outside. Finally, she broke it. "You're bleeding." His 4 eyes narrowed. "Your concern misplaced." "Not concern," she snapped. "Survival. If you collapse, I don't want your corpse drawing scavengers." Something like amusement flickered across his face. He didn't stop her when she crossed the space between them. His armor was scorched, plates cracked. She found a tear near his ribs where dark blood seeped. The smell was metallic, spiced with something alien. She cleaned the wound with steady hands. He grunted but didn't flinch. His skin beneath was tough, but the gash was deep. "You are bold," he muttered. "I'm practical." She pressed a patch over the injury. "You need me alive as much as I need you. We work together or we both die." His gaze sharpened. "I am Kaeldar, warrior of the Dominion. I do not work with prey." Elara met his stare without flinching. "Then consider this your first exception." The words hung heavy, but he didn't argue. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, a constant hiss and crackle, but inside the cave only the flicker of her emergency light held the dark at bay. Exhaustion tugged at her, but adrenaline refused to release her grip. A sound slithered from deeper in the cave. Wet. Grinding. Elara stiffened, eyes darting to the shadows. Something massive shifted beyond the light's reach. The ground vibrated faintly. Kael'thar's hand went to a blade at his side, long, curved, humming faintly with energy. He rose unsteadily, shoulders squared. Stay. Elara ignored the command, lifting her cutter. A segmented body slid into view, chitin gleaming in her light. Dozens of legs scraped the rock. Its mouth gaped, rows of jagged mandibles clicking. It lunged. Elara swung the cutter, sparks slicing across one limb. The creature shrieked, thrashing. Kaeldar roared, charging with his blade. The fight was chaos, steel against chitin, acid saliva spraying, claws tearing. Elara's cutter barely slowed the beast, but Kael'thar's blade pierced through shell, ichor spraying the walls. The alien warrior staggered as the beast smashed him against stone. Elara acted without thinking, driving the cutter into the exposed joint at its neck. The creature convulsed, screeched, then collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. Breathless, soaked in alien fluids, Elara stumbled back. Kaeldar dragged himself upright, blade dripping. His gaze locked on her, not hostile, not mocking, but measured. You killed, he said slowly. I helped, she corrected, voice shaking. His 4 eyes studied her, unreadable. Then, for the first time, he inclined his head. A warrior's nod. Respect. The storm outside began to fade, leaving silence broken only by their ragged breaths. Elara sank against the wall, trembling. For the first time since the crash, she let herself admit the truth. She would not survive this world alone. And neither would he. The days after the storm blurred into a rhythm of necessity. Elara scavenged wreckage from the stellar ark, stripping metal, tools, and ration packs. Kaeldar dragged salvage from his broken vessel with relentless strength, though each movement reopened the wound at his ribs. Neither trusted the other fully, but hunger and cold made trust a luxury neither could reject. They built a fragile truce on work. Elara knelt over a shallow basin she had carved from the stone, placing her water filter into a trickle that seeped from the cave wall. Clear drops collected in the container. She exhaled, relief flickering through her. Water meant time. Kaeldar watched from the shadows, arms crossed. Your device is weak. It will not last. It will last long enough, she said, tightening the seal. Better than drinking poison straight from the rock. He grunted, unimpressed. My people endure worse. She looked at him, sweat clinging to her temple. And how many of your people are left here? For a heartbeat, his 4 eyes blazed. Then he turned away without answering. By nightfall, they sat opposite one another around a fire fed with scavenged wiring and dry alien moss. The flames cast long shadows across the cave walls. You should eat, Kaeldar said, tossing her a strip of charred flesh. The smell was acrid, but her stomach cramped too hard to refuse. She tore a piece with her teeth, gagged at the taste, but forced herself to swallow. What is it? She asked. Hunter beast, he replied. Its pack circled your ship's bones today. Her gaze sharpened. So they're drawn to the wreckage. He nodded. The energy. The smell of blood. Elara's fingers tightened on the meat. The wreck held the last of her supplies. Predators circling it meant every trip risked an ambush. She filed the thought away, already weighing alternatives. The uneasy alliance deepened when necessity demanded more. On the 4th day, Elara returned from scavenging with a long gash across her arm, blood dripping down her sleeve. A predator had leapt from the dunes. She'd barely escaped. Kaeldar caught her before she collapsed. He examined the wound with rough hands, clicking his tongue. You are careless. I'm alive, she muttered, biting back pain. He tore a strip of his own armor cloth and bound the cut with surprising precision. You will scar. I can live with scars. His eyes met hers, burning in the dim light. Scars are survival. Weakness is death. You learn. She almost laughed at the irony. You sound like my instructors back home. You had warriors? Scientists, she corrected, wincing as he tightened the bandage. Different kind of battle. Something passed between them then, an acknowledgement. Different worlds, same law of survival. The storm returned on the seventh night. Not rain this time, but wind, a screaming, howling force that tore at their makeshift camp outside the cave. Supplies scattered, their fragile structures shattered. Elara clutched her satchel as the gale ripped through. Kael'dar's massive frame shielded her, his armor pitted by flying shards of rock. When the storm finally passed, they sat huddled together, shaking from cold and exhaustion. The silence afterward was heavier than the wind. Kaeldar spoke first, his voice rough. The planet will kill us before hunger does. Elara stared at the stars beyond the cave mouth. Then we adapt faster. His gaze lingered on her. Humans, fragile. Yet you do not stop. Why? She swallowed, throat raw. The memory of her dead crew flashed behind her eyes. Because if I stop, their deaths mean nothing. I don't intend to die here, not like that. Kael'dar's expression softened, though his jaw stayed hard. Your fire is small. But it burns. It was on the 12th day that something shifted. Kaeldar had brought down a grazing beast near the canyon, its hide thick, meat barely edible. He carved it with his blade, movements precise, while Elara studied the patterns of bioluminescent fungi that clung to the rocks nearby. She realized their glow responded to touch, dimming and brightening. Photosynthetic? Biochemical? Your eyes are curious, Kaeldar said, watching her trace the glowing stems. I'm trying to understand this world, she replied. If I can map its life, maybe we can predict what kills us next. He snorted, but not unkindly. Humans chase knowledge even when death breathes on their necks. That's how we've survived, she said, meeting his gaze. We adapt. We learn. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Perhaps not as weak as I thought. That night the temperature plummeted. Their fire sputtered low. Elara's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped her rations. Kael'dar's armor gave him some protection, but even he trembled. Finally he growled, frustrated. You will die like this. Then fix it, she snapped through chattering teeth. He hesitated, then pulled her against him. His body radiated heat, his armor a barrier but not enough. Instinct warred with reason, but Elara didn't fight him. The warmth seeped into her frozen limbs. She whispered, Practical, right? His voice rumbled near her ear. Practical. The closeness didn't vanish when the storm cleared. Instead, it deepened. In stolen moments, their walls cracked. He told her of the Dominion, how warriors fought not just for survival but to leave legacy behind, children to carry their names. Without legacy, a warrior's life meant nothing. She told him of her failures, the missions where she couldn't save lives, the faces that haunted her sleep. I was supposed to keep them alive, she whispered, staring at the fire. But I didn't. Kael'dar's clawed hand rested against the ground beside hers. Not touching. Close. Survival is never certain. Guilt does not feed the dead. His bluntness should have stung. Instead, it steadied her. It happened not with planning, but with need. On the 15th night, another storm forced them deeper into the cave. Wind howled through tunnels, ice slicing in sheets. Supplies lost again, food scarce, fire nearly gone. They huddled close, skin against armor, warmth and breath mingling. Survival blurred lines neither wanted to acknowledge. Elara felt his chest rise and fall against hers, the deep rumble of his breathing. His gaze met hers in the dim glow, no mockery, no disdain. Only recognition. Her voice trembled. If we die tomorrow. Kael'dar's hand brushed her face, claws careful. Then we die not alone. The rest came without words. Survival drove it. Instinct sealed it. Weeks blurred again. The storms eased. The predators kept their distance. They built stronger shelters, learned to hunt together, and shared silence more comfortably than speech. Then, one morning, Elara froze over the water basin. Her reflection stared back, pale, exhausted. But something else twisted in her stomach, undeniable. Days counted. Patterns missed. Her breath hitched as the truth dawned. Pregnant. Her hands shook as she pressed them to her abdomen. A spark of terror, awe, and disbelief rippled through her. The child of two enemies, forged in survival, growing inside her. Kildar found her hours later, still staring at nothing. His voice was low, cautious. "What troubles you?" Elara turned, throat tight. She guided his clawed hand to her stomach. His eyes widened, every trace of pride and ferocity stripped away. Only shock remained. "This changes everything," she whispered. And they both knew she was right. Elara woke to the sound of claws scraping rock. For a breath, she thought Kildar was sharpening his blade again. Then she saw him already standing, weapon in hand, eyes fixed on the cave mouth. "Predators," he muttered. Her stomach tightened. The nights had grown restless since the storms passed, distant howls circling their canyon. She pushed herself upright, pressing a protective hand to her stomach before she even realized it. The movement wasn't lost on him. "They smell new life," he said. The words chilled her more than the air. They moved quickly. Supplies gathered, weapons checked, fire stoked brighter. Outside, the canyon floor glowed faintly with patches of bioluminescent moss, enough light to see shapes moving in the distance. Dozens of them. Too many. Elara gripped her plasma cutter, pulse hammering. "We can't fight a whole pack." Kael'dar's voice was steel. "Then we fight the leader." The pack emerged from the shadows, wolf-sized creatures with segmented bodies and serrated jaws. Their alpha towered above them, plated hide gleaming like armor. Its mandibles clacked, echoing off the stone walls. Kaeldar stepped forward, blade raised. "Stay behind me." Elara's throat tightened. "Not this time." She moved to his side. For once, he didn't argue. The battle erupted in a blur of claws and teeth. Kaeldar cut through the first attackers with brutal precision, his blade humming as it cleaved chitin. Elara swung her cutter at snapping jaws, sparks flying as she struck. The alpha charged, its weight shaking the ground. Kaeldar met it head-on, slashing deep into its chest. The beast roared, flinging him against the rocks. He hit hard, armor cracking. "Kale!" Elara screamed. The alpha turned toward her, mandibles dripping acid. Instinct shoved fear aside. She raised the cutter, jamming it into the beast's joint as it lunged. Heat flared, smoke rising. The creature shrieked, thrashing. Kaeldar dragged himself up, blood streaking his armor. With a roar that shook the canyon, he leapt, driving his blade into the beast's skull. The alpha convulsed, then collapsed in a shuddering heap. The rest of the pack scattered, howling into the night. Silence fell, broken only by Elara's ragged breaths. She ran to Kaeldar. He sagged against the beast's corpse, pale beneath his dark skin. The gash along his side bled freely, deeper than before. "Don't you dare!" she whispered, pressing her hands to the wound. "Not now. Not when we've come this far." He caught her wrist, his grip weak but steady. "You fought like a warrior." Tears blurred her vision. "Shut up and let me save you." She worked frantically through the night. Her medkit supplies were nearly gone, but she stitched and sealed as best she could, using fire-heated shards of metal, bandages stripped from her own clothes. Kaeldar drifted in and out, sometimes muttering in his tongue, sometimes whispering words meant only for her. "You carry legacy," he rasped once, his claw brushing her stomach before slipping away again. "Don't you dare leave it all on me," she hissed, hands trembling as she worked. By dawn, his breathing steadied, shallow but strong. Exhaustion crushed her, but relief steadied her heart. Days passed. The pack didn't return. The canyon felt strangely still, as if the death of the alpha had silenced the land itself. Elara and Kaeldar built a stronger shelter from the beast's bones and wreckage. She foraged cautiously, while he recovered in slow, stubborn silence. Each evening, they sat together by the fire, words fewer, silences deeper. Then, one evening, she spotted something strange against the horizon, a faint glimmer in the sky, moving with unnatural precision. Not a star. A beacon. Her chest tightened. Kale, look! He followed her gaze, eyes narrowing. Human. Hope surged, then faltered. Rescue meant survival. But what of him? What of their child? They won't understand, she whispered. They will kill me, he said simply. Her throat constricted. The thought of losing him, after everything, stabbed deeper than fear itself. Then we don't tell them. Not yet. Not everything. Kildar studied her, expression unreadable. Then he reached across the fire, clawed hand covering hers. His voice was quiet, stripped of pride. Your species speaks of endurance. Mine of legacy. Together, perhaps both. On the final night before the beacon drew closer, they sat under alien stars. The fires of the nebula painted the sky in crimson and violet, their light washing the canyon in hues of blood and hope. Alara took his hand, pressing it against her stomach. The life growing within her shifted, fragile but undeniable. No matter what comes, she said, her voice steady now. This child is proof we can survive anything. Kael'dar's eyes softened, a rare gentleness breaking through his harsh frame. Not just survive, he murmured. Endure. They sat in silence, two enemies remade by fire and ash, waiting for a dawn neither had imagined, carrying a future neither could yet name.